Hi creative friends, this is Freya and thank you so much for being here. So this is part 2 of my When Things Are Too Chaotic painting, and I've left it alone for I think it was a week, and I am now coming back to it. And one of the great things about just putting a piece aside is just when you come back to it, you get a fresh perspective. So when I, did this painting, I was so happy because I had tamed the chaos down. I had reined everything in and neutralized things. And I was very happy with the fact that I could actually see my figures and etc., etc. But now that I left it alone and I'm coming back to it, I am seeing some potential problems here. So I'm going to get out my viewfinder, excuse me, and I'm just going to look at the painting, and there's a lot about it that I really still am loving, but I can tell you that a few of the potential problems that I see. Okay, the first thing is I'm really loving this blue, but I feel like it's a bit too neutralized and it's a bit too bland. I still feel like I need a blue, because if I put a really bright color, it's going to detract from the figures, and I want the figures to be the focal point. Sometimes that can work, but I feel like with this particular painting, it's not going to work because there is still a lot going on, you know, on the page. So if I put a really bright background, I just don't feel like that would be the way to go. So I just think I need to lift this blue up a bit. And so I'm going to ask myself the question, what should I do with this blue? Should I mix a more lighter blue, a more electric blue? Like, I'm just going to ask myself that question. And then I'm going to go move on to the figures. So I put oil sticks on the face. So I had to let it dry for a few days, because when you use oil sticks, you have to let it dry for 24 to 48 hours, depending on the humidity of where you live. And excuse me. So I am going to kind of hone in on the faces. And I just think I need to add some color, to the faces. It's just looking very bland to me. Even though I did put the oil sticks, like I really need to brighten things up a bit. So what I'm gonna do is I mixed an orange and a pinkish purple color, and I think that if I bring that color, it's gonna like really kind of brighten things up a bit here. So I'm working right on top of the oil sticks, and you can do that once it's completely dry. The oil sticks are not like the oil pastels. They're different. So I can work directly on top of this. So I'm just gonna like bring in some colors here and just like liven this whole area up, because I just feel like it needs some life to it. And so I'm just gonna let that alone for now. And I need to kind of move this around the page a little bit. So another thing that I have to do with the blue is, right now I feel that the blue is only in the background and it's really not integrated onto the figures. So I have to bring the background into like other parts of the painting, and that's another problem I see. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to add some turquoise to a darker blue, and I'm going to make a mix of the two colors, and I think that's gonna give me like, it's gonna lift up the blue, but it's still gonna be in, you know, a cool color. So that's one of my favorite things I do is when I mix a darker blue with a turquoise, I get a really beautiful, not an electric blue, but it just has a lot of depth to it. Ooh, so I'm gonna show you what I did here on my palette. So all I did was I mixed a darker blue with my turquoise, and I'm really loving that color. Now, I don't know, that might be a bit too light for this over here. It just might be like a really, I don't know. I love that blue, but I'm thinking I need to add more of the darker blue because I want something that is a bit darker. I don't want something so light. I think that's gonna kind of throw things off a bit. So when mixing color, it's not only, you know, the shade that you get, but it's also the tone. So how light or dark it is. See, and I think that that is too light. I could be wrong, but maybe if I mix it up a little bit. So I really don't want this to go into a third part, but the thing is, when I made my first video of, you know, containing the chaos, I only thought I was going to make one video. Like, I didn't think it would run into two videos, but then it did. It's running into the second video, and now that I am kind of looking at it, I'm thinking it might need to go into a third video, which, you know, like I said, I don't really always want to do so many videos because, you know, I just don't know if you guys like it or not, or I just don't know how that kind of pans out. But honestly, I can't control how long something takes me, because I might have an idea like, oh, this is only going to take one video. Like, sometimes I know if it's a very definite tutorial about a certain thing, but when I'm doing art process videos, I cannot tell. This could go into like 5 videos, or it could go into, you know, one video. I don't know. But I'm thinking now that it might go into a third video because I don't want to use a heating tool to dry my paint. Like, I want it to dry naturally, because when it dries naturally, it retains a lot of its vibrancy and color, whereas when I use a heating tool, it's gonna flatten things out, and I don't like that. So a heating tool is valuable, and I do use it under certain circumstances, but for the most part, I try not to use it. So I'm really loving this blue more, and I need to bring it into the figures. So I think I'm gonna maybe like drop it in the neck, but I'm gonna use my fingers actually. So, and this way it keeps the eye moving around the page. And I'm gonna bring it into the face a little bit here. That might be a bit too much. So I'm just gonna dab some of this off with a paper towel because I think it's just a bit too much there. Okay, so I'm loving this blue a lot more because, you know, like I said in the beginning, I was just so grateful and glad that I had reined everything in. But now that I came back to it, that blue was really dragging things down. So I hope you can see that this has really brought some life into the painting. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my marker, my calligraphy pen here. And this is a Tombow marker, but unfortunately, I think it has been discontinued because I've been searching for a new one and I can't find it anywhere. So I get so upset when that happens, you know, when you love a particular art supply and then they discontinue it. But I'm sure there are tons of other calligraphy pens out there that I'm just going to have to try out. So I'm just using my marker and I'm just kind of making some lines here. So I think that marker is on its last legs, which is why I was looking for a new one. But I'm going to use my pit marker here. And let me see here. Okay. I don't know if I want to keep this shape over here. Part of me does. And part of me is like, maybe I just need to clean it up a little bit. So I'm just going to turn this around here. And let me see here. And I've also got to figure out what I'm going to do with the hair. And I don't know yet. I can't make big hair. Usually I love to make big hair, but I can't do that because, well, because there's no space on the page. And I mean, I guess I could make some big hair going down that way, but I don't want to do that. So let me see here. I'm going to use my Stabilo pencil and I am going to try to sketch in some hair. Let me see. I think because there's this like moon-like shape here, I'm just going to give her a simple hairstyle. So sometimes the things that I do, like say with the hair or the clothes or, you know, things like that, even the number of figures that I place on my spread, a lot of that sometimes just comes down to practicality. Like I would love to give her big hair, but I can't do it because I just don't have the space. So, you know, I'm going to try to do what I can. And over here, I really don't have any space, but I think I could like overlap some of this hair, and that might make for kind of an interesting composition. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to get out my ink paint, and I think what I'm going to do is just kind of add some of this black paint here. Let me see. And so I'm just making like I'm just blocking in some color, but I'm gonna probably go back in once it dries, and once I kind of complete it, I'm gonna go in and make some variations here to the hair. And I want to keep that like red part just for interest. And I think over here I'm going to do black as well. And this might get a little bit confusing because I don't have a lot of space, but I'm just going to work with what I have. And this is a good way actually for me to show you how I resolve problems, because this is not going to be a straightforward kind of a spread, because I really don't have a lot of space to work with, but that's okay because sometimes when we are constrained, we are forced to think outside the box. So now I do want to keep this part for the hair. I really do. But if I put the black, see, it's just going to be too confusing because now there's all this black on the top and the hair is not differentiated. So I'm just going to block it in and just let it dry and then come back and kind of see what I can do with it. And maybe I need to add some oil pastels or, you know, I don't know. But this is a good way to kind of illustrate that, you know, sometimes we just have to work with what we have. And just gonna add some more of that red. So I know this looks like a big mess, and that's totally fine. Like sometimes things are gonna be messy, and creativity is messy. Like things are not always really neat and tidy. So I am going to let this completely dry and come back to it. So this is part 2 of you know, when things get chaotic video. So thank you so much for being here and staying till the end, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.